Were you able to hear the first time what I was saying? No, okay. Thanks for the response. So I come from a diverse background. I teach business school, also a somatic therapist. I work with people who attempted suicide several times. I work with people who are victims of rape. I work with people who are kleptomaniacs and nymphomaniacs and give them dignity and their lives back. I work with parents of autism, or children with autism. I work with ADHD kids. I'm also a triathlete. Yesterday I did my first half Ironman and I came second in the women without any training really. But all of this to say that I bring, I'm a social entrepreneur. I use all my tools to bring about transformational change. So when you think about the way I perceive comedy is to hold up a mirror to society. Sorry. So you guys know Charles Chaplin, right? Did you see his Great Dictator? Did you? How many of you? Okay, so not many. So this was a man who. Okay, so before I get into that, so we talk about people ask me why don't you smile more, right? Have you ever seen Charlie Chaplin smiling? Have you ever seen Paresh Rawal in a comedy role smiling? Right? So we have, as comedians, we have like PhD in comedy. There's a difference between reading a book to enjoy it and to deconstruct a novel and construct it again from the perspective of an English professor. So comedians have a PhD in comedy. So, for instance, Charles Chaplin he had a very rough childhood. He didn't have a father to speak of, and his mother was in poor houses. She wasn't sane. So he was very poor, and he also, Marilyn Monroe, she went from orphanage to orphanage. They didn't have any childhood to speak of, and he went on to be the most powerful producer in Hollywood. In his time, in his day and time, the amount of salary that he got in his contracts was unthinkable, really. And then he had his own production house. So in The Great Dictator, for instance, he's always been iconoclastic. He's always questioned the norms of society. That's the job of the Roman jester. That's the jester. That's the job of the Shakespearan fools. Even in Delhi and in India, we have comedians who question the status quo. And comedians are very deep thinkers. We're also known for our depression, as you well know with Robin Williams. Because we think a lot, we know a lot, and we see the world around us and we get depressed. And the way we communicate how we see the world is through comedy, and there are certain tenets to comedy. One of them is that it's a succinct message. It's very brief, so you can get it. And we make it so powerful and so entertaining that you'll never forget the messaging behind it. So in The Great Dictator, Charlie Chaplin speaks, he has two roles. One is as a barber, and one is as Hitler. And Hitler actually banned this film twice. He banned it and he brought it into his private villa to see it twice. And he questioned Hitler's entire worldview of wanting to control the world. Charlie Chaplin also questioned, he was also wanted by the FBI in the United States because he questioned the norms of the hegemonic norms of society, and he actually had to leave the United States and seek asylum in Europe in his yesteryears. So as an introduction to me, so these are the awards. I'm an Ashoka Fellow as well, so I bring about change. So let me ask you, so how many of you think that I look funny? Yeah, thank you for your honesty. I'm actually one of the top 3 female comedians in India today. Yeah, you should put your applaud to that. That's not. Also one of the only 3 female comedians in India today. So I talk about issues such as the environment. So how many of you care for the environment? So I'm actually a really big environmentalist. I take personal responsibility for every single environmental problem there is, with the exception of the population problem. That was God's fault. First he threw down Adam and Eve. He said, I'm done with you, I'm disgusted. It was fine up till then, until he said, go fuck yourselves. You know what a catch-22 is? When the cause leads to the effect, effect leads to the cause. I'll give you an example. India's population density is so high, people are literally on top of each other. So there are different levels of water pollution. The first level, like in the United States, the first level is this river is so polluted you cannot drink water from this river. In the second level is this river is so polluted you cannot swim in this river. In India, the rivers are so polluted people have stopped committing suicide off of the bridge. They're like, man, I want to go, but not like this. You remember when we were growing up, people used to jump off the Yamuna Bridge, you remember? Have you heard that recently? You remember that film with, what's his name? When Tabu goes to jump off the bridge? What's his name? Kamal Hassan, right. And he follows in, he jumps in to save her. And she gets up off the river and the water is knee deep. And she waves away from him and she says, he says, kahan ja rahi ho? He says, gehra pani ghumne ja rahi hu. Right? So that's another take on that. But so I had a pet growing up. Anyone want to take a guess as to what kind of pet I had growing up? Cat? No. I had a snake. I called him Bala Subramanian. There's a reason for that. It was because he was dark. No, that's not why. It was because he had a forked tongue. No, that's not why. If it was on the basis of a forked tongue, I would have called it a Panchayat. So this Gujarati girlfriend of mine comes home and she brings a mouse for Subbu to eat. She's driving. She looks down. Mouse's heart is palpitating. She concludes mouse must be thirsty. So she picks it up by its tail and swishes it in Subbu's water drink. And I'm like, I realize you don't know anything about animals, but what's the mouse supposed to do? Swing and drink? She puts it down, the mouse takes one look at the snake, has a heart attack and dies. What does she do? She takes it back to the pet store, replaces this one, they're done. Point to note, she's Gujarati. What is the snake? No idea. What is the mouse? No idea. Refund? So do you guys like wildlife documentaries? I find them confusing. There's like a cute little lizard running around and then this hawk comes and pounces on the lizard and puts it up on its nest, and then they show the hawk babies and the babies are all and I'm like, oh look what cute babies, and then they show the lizard like blood pouring from the lizard's face and I'm like, the poor lizard, and they show the babies and the babies are all and I'm like, I'm so confused, can you give me some time to switch loyalties here? So I don't get Coca-Cola. They serve Coca-Cola in glass bottles or plastic bottles. How long does it take plastic to biodegrade? It's actually 500 years. How long does it take you to drink that Coca-Cola?
5 seconds.
5 seconds? We're not talking about the performance in bed. It takes 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes. That doesn't make sense, does it? 500 years for the bottle to degrade, 5 minutes for you to drink it. It's kind of like marriage, isn't it? For those 5 minutes of pleasure, you're going to be stuck with a product for the rest of your life. It's toxic and good for you. You know what I can't stand? I can't stand when people are walking down the street, they eat something, throw the wrapper on the road. I can't stand that. Like people, you got a system here, you're going to hold on to your trash until you see a trash can, you put it in there, and then we put it into the ocean. I also talk about issues around women's safety. I have a huge set on Delhi men. So India's been looking for the right answer to the question of women's safety. We've been asking questions like, what clothes should she be wearing? What time of day should she be out at? And I'm saying these are the wrong questions. The right question is, India, are you raising your sons correctly? Okay. And we're talking about rape, and somehow it's never the guy's fault. It's the woman. She provoked me. I'm like, seriously? Guys are going to be the judge of what provokes them? Anything provokes a guy. A hole will do, am I right, sir? Bagels, vadas, for the specially able polo. Should have seen how excited this guy was when I took him to the golf course for the first time. Sorry. And then I talk about gender equality, things that you can talk about, things that you can't talk about. So people cringe when they think of female comedians. They'll be like, what would she be talking about? Like women's issues, like menstruation and stuff. We don't look. I'll tell you, we talk about education, like growing up in India. First we had the math period, which is followed by the physics period. And in the chemistry period, they taught us the periodic table. And in the biology period, they would periodically take us on field trips. It was a dark period for me. And I had a problem with my grammar, right? When I used to write, I used to put in the comma, but then I used to miss the full stop sometimes. And my teacher was like, you missed your period. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I have irregular periods. And the teacher was like, no, you must have regular periods. Today we talk about stuff like menstruation and stuff, we don't, okay? Period. But I'll do one last set on, let's see. So I'll say this about, what's to swim? Do you guys swim? So I swim, and I get to see things in the swimming pool that no one ought to. So at the end of my lane, I was like, look, there's a woman at the end of my lane, because I could see her swimsuit straps with her back to me. There's actually a guy with his back hair flowing in a V formation. I was like, good, the hijab is invented for a reason. And you have to swim. When you swim like this. You don't drop your feet. If you drop your feet, increases drag, slows you down. You're not supposed to do that. Indians have invented a new swim stroke that goes like this. That I like to call the Jesus Christ stroke. You might have seen it. Like 3-4 guys will get together like this with their heads above their water, and they will do back and forth. They hold a kitty fight, they're talking and going like. And these guys don't know how to swim. They drown and they come back. And then they act like they own the world. देखो दुनिया वालों, मैं कच्चे में खड़ा हूँ. But I'll say this about Delhi-men. Delhi-men are chivalrous, especially around older people, young children, and big boobs. Delhi-men are bisexual. If you don't get it, you go and buy sex. And there's a difference between Delhi men and Mumbai men. Yes, ladies? I find Delhi men are immature. They take offense at the jokes I make about them, not so Mumbai men. Mumbai men have no problem by making jokes about Delhi men. And above all, Delhi men are small. I knew because it started pressing up against me in a bus. I turned right round, I'm like, there's a lot of things that we're teaching it. Alright, so you guys have been great. That's going to be the end of my talk. Thank you for listening.